positions in any real jeopardy. I think the Democrats are not going to try to impeach him or take him out. One, they probably don't have the votes to do it anyway, and two, it's probably not a good thing in the midst of this process.
Now overseas, she was Italy's first black government member who faced constant racism. Now she's being sued by a far-right politician. ABC's Megan Williams has more from Rome.
When a politician from Italy's far-right League party posted an image of then Minister of Integration Cécile Kyenge beside an orangutan, she asked League party members to condemn the image. When they didn't, she called the party racist. Now League leader Matteo Salvini is suing her for defamation. With the trial date set for January, some 40 black British MPs and politicians from across the European Union have signed an open letter in support of Kyenge and condemning the lawsuit as intimidation. Megan Williams, ABC News, Rome.
And this is ABC News.
Do you ever wonder how we're streaming millions of movies on demand or turning homes into hotels? And how are we watching a live mission from Mars? Smart business minds dreamed these ideas, and Amazon Web Services is how they built them. With the broadest functionality and the most experience, the leading enterprises trust the AWS cloud to build the next big idea. Are you ready to build it? Learn more at awsishow.com.
Dave Packer, ABC News.
From the KMET Weather Center for Beaumont and the Pass area, we'll have showers today. We could have a thunderstorm. Our high 64 with winds to 20 miles an hour. The today mostly cloudy tonight. There's a chance for showers and thunderstorms this evening. Overnight, a low 56 with winds to 25 miles an hour. Sunday will end the weekend with a sunny day and a high 75. We'll have winds to 20 miles an hour. For Redlands, we'll have showers, possibly a thunderstorm today with a high 68. For Palm Springs, we'll have showers. We could have a thunderstorm. Our high 78. I'm Rod Tanner for Smart Talk 1490 KMET.
The Banning Beaumont Cherry Valley Tea Party meets every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. for informal breakfast and discussion. And they meet each month on the second Thursday at 5 p.m., all at the Farms House Restaurant in Banning. Listen to interesting speakers, learn about our Constitution with our free classes, enjoy friendly discussions, and informal dining. Come join us. For more information, call Glenn Stoll, 951-316-3843.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
And welcome. It is time for Constitutional Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs here on Saturday afternoon. You know, it's funny because Conservative Voice Radio is on Saturday morning. And Conservative Voice Radio, 8 a.m. right here on KMET, and I host that. So I get my mornings and afternoons, I guess, messed up here. But it is Saturday afternoon here on the West Coast, and I guess we're approaching within a couple hours, supper time there on the East Coast. And for those of you who are listening around the world, welcome to the program, KMET1490am.com worldwide. We are the local program with a global footprint. And I am Douglas V. Gibbs, your host. And I tell you what, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because it's not really a part of the program, but Doug's computer has been having fits. I'm happy to be on the air. Just so happened we had I don't know if it was malware or a crash or whatever. I actually had to take my computer all the way back to the factory settings, reloaded everything. Everything's working except for Microsoft Word, which is what I use for my books and teaching my homeschool kids and all that. So I may not have to purchase another computer after all. Now that said, I got to figure out this Word thing, what we're going to do, because we need it. Got to have it. I've had friends calling me up saying, "Hey, Doug, hey, Doug, why don't you use Mac?" Or why, I get it. This is like second time in 25 years I've had a problem with a PC, something like malware. I'm not going to name the name of the company because I haven't done all the research yet, but someone suggested to me that the virus protection that I use is a Russian company, and they've recently gotten in trouble for planting spyware on computers of those who may disagree with them politically. So Maybe I'm just a political target. I mean, little old me. Come on. Why would I don't make anybody mad. Do I make anybody mad, Alex?
Not me.
Yeah, but well, there's a lot of people out there who don't like me, and they don't like the way I operate and the things I say. In fact, I'm running for school board in Trustee District 2 in Murrieta Valley School District, and I haven't really had an opportunity to do things like signs and all that, or print up my flyers. Haven't done any door knocking for the most part yet, and I joked with a friend of mine. I said, well, maybe I'll just get lucky and enough people will know my name and see Constitution instructor. They'll vote for me. I was just joking. Suddenly I get back through the grapevine that my opponents go around saying that I am so smug and arrogant that I think my name alone will get me elected. That's what she's now going around telling people. So I'm like, shoot, man, you got to be careful what you say. Anyway, so there's that too. But Dennis, you're way out there in a different state, calling in on a phone line that may or may not sound wonderful. We're going to find out in just a second. Speak, my friend. Tell us how it's going.
Well, it's fine. I will be with you for the most part for the first hour, and then I got a family commitment that's taking me from there. But Sean says that this line sounds fine, so I hope you agree with it.
Yeah, you know what? You do sound great. So, Sean, he had me all worried, saying that there was something wrong with the line, and you sound great. Well, then again, you got that voice for radio thing going, I mean, even a bad line. You're so good that even a bad line can't make you sound bad.
Well, I hope the listeners feel the same way. So very good.
All right. Well, let's talk about a couple things, and really, I want to start off with the news of the day, basically, and that is this: we have a political prisoner who has been released, brought home from Turkey. His name is Andrew Brunson. Is a pastor. He's been a resident of Turkey for 20 years. He's basically a missionary. And he was accused of terrorism and being connected to the Kurds and all that. And he's supposed to have like a slightly over 3-year term. And after a couple years, President Trump has gotten him released without any, let me repeat that, without any deals. As a matter of fact, President Trump's exact words, there was no deal made at all. There was no deal, but we're happy to have him and have him in good shape. Then later on at the White House, President Trump said there is no ransom in the United States. And now it's funny because every time I see liberal left Democrats on like Fox News or CNN, and they always say, well, I don't like the president's policies. I'm very upset about his policies and their failed policies. What failed policies? They're just upset that he's not doing it the way they would do it. But the thing is, the way he's doing things is successful. A firm hand and the threat of sanctions, and we've got we got Pastor Brunson home. What was that other one from Venezuela's name? Josh Holt. That was like last May. We've had 4 from North Korea, and I think there's some others that the list is growing of political prisoners from around the world being released, and they're being released without ransom, without making deals, because the firm hand of President Trump and his exceptional negotiation skills, and we can talk about the new trade deals. We can talk about bringing Kim Jong-un to the table. He's the great negotiator. He has brought home a number of. I don't know if it's more than another president, but it sure is a growing number, and definitely more than the last president. That's for sure. Who the last president had a Neville Chamberlain kind of style. Alex, I'm sure you've been glued to the tube over this. Tell me, what's your thoughts about Andrew Brunson coming home and while in the White House, just listening to the president and what he had to say, just absolutely, incredible. Just watching this president in action. But anyway, back to you, Alex. What are your thoughts? As you see now, yet another political someone detained by another government come home, Pastor Andrew Brunson. What are your thoughts?
Well, I remember Obama several times in situations that were similar, saying that we either had to let it go or attack. And this is a president, the one we have now, who realizes that we have a lot more power than simply the greatest military that's ever been seen.
Right, so he's operating from a position of strength, and he's making sure they understand he's in a position of strength.
And he's using all of his strength. He's not just saying either military or surrender. He's saying we have the biggest economy in history as well as the biggest military, and if you mess with us, we will drive you into bankruptcy.
And you know, Turkey was in trouble because the deflation of their monetary unit, once he started kind of doing some of that, was immediate. And from what I'm hearing, Erdogan, I think is how you say his name, the president of Turkey, who would normally is a hardliner and all sort of stuff, he's like, it was like he had no choice. He's like, okay, got easy to work with. It's amazing. It's you know, I get now. You ladies out there, I apologize. It's the only way I can think of saying this, Dennis. It's amazing how much cooperation you can get when you grab somebody by the testicles.
Well, that's what LBJ used to say. He used to say well, this guy's not going to cooperate, and he says, I got his blank in my pocket.
Yeah. All I got to do is squeeze. Dennis, are you there? You got us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, what are your thoughts about what I said? You know, I mean, we've got them by the you-know-whats and the rest of the world, and Trump knows it, and he's willing to use it. The Democrats are like, oh, that's horrible. I can't believe, what a bully. No, that's how you get things done, right?
Well, you need to know who you're dealing with, and you need to know how they go about their business. And there's a lot of people that they need to know that you are willing to use the resources you have. And in the past, you know, if we haven't been willing to take advantage of all of our strengths for whatever reason, you know, I mean, whether or not the politicians or criminals or just other people you're negotiating with in business. I mean, I've done a lot of negotiating in business, and, you know, sometimes if they think you're the kind of guy who always bluffs, you know, and you come in with a higher price and then you do the minuet and they know they're going to knock you down 20 or 30%, then any price you give them they know is high, and they just have to work you down. But if they know you're the kind of guy that gives a price that is reasonable, somewhat flexible, and, you know, I negotiate with them, but if I quote them a price, I don't have 40% of minuet pad in there to tap dance around. And I think what Trump has done, he has established that he is firm. When he speaks something, he does mean it. He isn't one to just throw out a bunch of bluster and then not follow up. So, you know, they can just kind of say, yeah, he's all talk. And the thing that amazes me is you and I don't know the stuff that is really going on. We only know the stuff that's in the press. You know, I bet you there's a whole bunch of other parameters that are coming into play here that we have no knowledge of that he has access to, and he's going to put America first. You know, he said that in the UN. There's nothing wrong with patriotism and putting your own country first. And I think these people are realizing that he is not here to make peace with the globe. He's here to take care of America. Because my statement, going back when I ran for Senate, is the best thing for the world is to have a healthy and strong America. That is the best global strategy. Because if we're not strong and healthy, then the globe is going to go to pot, you know. And I think he's directly saying that and indirectly saying that through many avenues that and if you're the fifth guy that he's staring down after the first four have already gone through it, you know, you don't have to study him that much because you can already see that, you know, he means what he says. So I agree with your assessment.
Now, you know, and it's like I've said, you know, about when it came to like Kim Jong-un, you know, the Democrats, when Donald Trump was elected president, saying, oh, he's going to start a nuclear war. Oh, my gosh, he's got his finger on that button. You know, it's all, you know, he's a cowboy. He's, you know, dangerous. And I tell people, you know who believed him? Kim Jong-un, which is why he came to the table. It doesn't, and this is where Trump really masters it. Even the craziest possible thing, I mean, deep in the back of your mind, well, he would never start a nuclear war. But he's firm enough, and a lot of people are freaking out enough that in the bad guys' minds, in the back of their mind, they say, but he just might. And that's enough. And he knows it. He knows he's got that kind of, plus he's firm, and he doesn't back down. It's like with the tariffs. And when he started talking about tariffs, and the Democrats, oh my gosh, you're going to start a trade war. And I was like, well, no, he was using it as a tool. It was a threat. And he had to make sure they were firmly convinced that he was willing to go into a trade war for America's interest. And what happened? They all came to the negotiation tables. There's no trade war. Now we have better deals because this guy's the great negotiator. And that's why Pastor Andrew Brunson is home, because Andrew Brunson is home because the great negotiator had Turkey nervous, and he was hitting them with sanctions. So it wasn't just words. He showed them a little bit of his hand. And, and the Democrats call him a bully. I call him an American who uses a firm hand and gets the job done. Okay, let's go to break. When we come back, I want to talk about something Rand Paul said about war powers, and a question that a student had for me last Tuesday at the Corona Constitution class regarding localism. In other words, after the break, we're talking all Constitution. Don't go anywhere.
The true patriots of AllStar Collision have been proudly serving the Inland Empire for over 20 years. Built on honesty, integrity, quality, and old-fashioned customer service, we offer lifetime warranties for our work, and every vehicle serviced by AllStar Collision is washed, detailed, the headlights polished, fluids are checked and topped off, safety checked, and returned in showroom condition. We offer free estimates, are approved by major insurance companies, and accept all claims for all cars and trucks. We use computerized frame straightening to factory specifications, offer fiberglass body repair and paint, free local pickup and delivery, and after-hours towing. Mention this radio program at drop-off and receive $100 off or a free rental car for up to 5 days during your repair. Visit us at allstarci.com or at 522 Railroad Street in Corona. Call us at 951-279-9161. We are the kings of wreck and roll.
What's your constitutional IQ? Your quest to learn the Constitution can be fun for the whole family. Learn about the Constitution as you play the Constitution Quest board game. Learn more at constitutionquest.com.
Check us out online at KMET1490am.com.
Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs has come to KMET. Listen live Saturdays at 1 p.m. right here on KMET 1490 AM.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Tired of the lies? Come here for the truth. Douglas V. Gibbs.
All right, welcome back. Constitution Radio here on KMET 1490 AM. I'm your host, Douglas V. Gibbs. I don't have the tie and the jacket and all that going on today. I've got a collared shirt I'd probably wear to the golf course on because I'm at the home office. Decided not to drive all the way up to the studio. It's raining today in sunny California and yesterday. Alex, did you get your share of thunder and lightning last night? Because we sure did up here.
Yeah, I'm such a deep sleeper, though. I slept right through it. The problem is that I walk the dog. So I'm trying to carry the umbrella, pick up the poop, and walk the dog all at the same time. It's a little tricky.
Wow, that gives a whole new meaning to multitasking.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, this is the dog that has let's see, he's blind, he's deaf, and And when he does his thing, it shoots out a different direction, right?
Yeah, he's deaf beyond doubt, and he's got a problem with his urethra, so they hooked up his urethra to his anus. So when he thinks he's peeing one way, he's actually peeing at me.
Poor dog, poor you.
Well, this show has so much information.
Yeah, the radio audience now is they're all holding their nose right now and changing the station. All right, for those of you who hung with us after that. Poor dog, man. He thinks he's doing one thing, he's doing something else. That's got to be a surprise for people standing behind him. All right. All right, well, I was watching Shannon Bream on Fox News yesterday or the day before, and I think it was yesterday. And Rand Paul, actually, this was pretty sure now I'm thinking about it. It was, I think it was yesterday. Thursday. No, it was Thursday. But anyway, so she interviewed Senator Rand Paul about the Saudi interference and the possible involvement in assassinating a Washington Post journalist, which we can talk about that in a minute, too. Saudi Arabia is still a Muslim country, so as much as we try to act like they are our friends and they're the good Muslims, that's like saying that the Chinese are the good communists. It's not true. But nonetheless, when talking to Senator Rand Paul, who is the son of Ron Paul, and I've always considered Rand Paul probably the most constitutionally minded or understands the Constitution probably more than anybody else on the Hill out there. But like his father, he misses it when it comes to war powers, and he said something that was very fascinating to me when he was asked about what the president may or should do militarily about the situation in the Middle East. Rand Paul was quick to say, well, yeah, but the Constitution says only Congress can vote on war. Now, I remember during the Iraq War, too, everybody's saying, oh, it was an illegal war because Congress never gave Bush permission. They never voted on it. Well, Dennis, you have this saying about how much God loves this world. Lay it on the audience.
Oh, God so loved the world, he didn't send a committee. Is that my favorite quote?
For God so loved the world, he didn't send a committee. Could you imagine if the president, every time he wanted to institute troop movement or military action, he had to get Congress to approve it. And then they go into their committees, and a few months later, they say, okay, we'll let you do your military action. Well, by then, the opportunity's gone, first of all. Second of all, the element of surprise is gone because everybody in the world's watching Congress scream and yell out over whether or not we should use military action. And whatever the enemy was going to do, it's over. So the framers of the Constitution, in their infinite wisdom, did not agree with Rand Paul. And they understood that for God so loved the world that he did not send a committee. There are two war powers. And by the way, the War Powers Act of 1973, for those of you out there who want to throw that at me as proof that he needs congressional approval, you can't change authority with a law. It takes an amendment. War Powers Act of 1973, most of it is unconstitutional. It changes authorities through legislation. Can't do it. But anyway, so the framers, if you go back to the Articles of Confederation and you read there, you recognize that they identify two different war powers. The power to wage war and the power to declare war. Now, what the left and someone like Rand Paul is saying is that the president cannot wage war unless a war has been declared. Well, funny, first of all, we haven't had a declared war since World War II. So are you telling me that every single military operation since World War II has been unconstitutional? Not quite. See, the president is commander-in-chief. That makes him the chief commander in charge of the military. Now, Mr. Alex Ferguson, United States Marine, Purple Heart, Vietnam veteran, when you have a commander in charge of your battalion or company, what is his job, sir?
His job is to evaluate the situation and operate in the best interest of his troops and his country.
Okay, well, guess what? Same thing with the commander-in-chief, but he's the chief commander. Exact same thing. That's Donald Trump's job. And if he believes that troop movement is necessary and he ain't got time to deal with Congress, he is constitutionally allowed to do it. Now, for those of you who fear the warmongering president, yeah, but what if we have a president? He's just waging war all over the place. Well, don't worry. There are checks against it. First of all, Dennis, who has the power of the purse strings?
Oh, I don't know. It seems to me that Article 1 took care of that. So, it's Congress, principally
It's
the
Congress.
House of Representatives.
The House of Representatives specifically, which is supposed to be the voice of the people, has the power of the purse strings. You know what that means? If they don't like the war, instead of whining and crying and calling it a legal war, strip it of funding. No money, no war. So if Congress really has a problem with how the president is operating regarding military operations, they can strip it of funding, number one. Number two, if the president is abusing his power to wage war, they can also file articles of impeachment. Those are the powers that Congress has in case the president abuses that power to wage war. So let me review real quick. Rand Paul, I love you, brother. You're a great senator, but you're wrong. It does not say in the Constitution that only Congress votes on war. What it says is that Congress has the power to declare war. But a declaration of war is not necessary in order to wage war. And if you don't believe me, ask Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, who both waged war without a congressional declaration. It was called the Barbary Wars. You know, the same war that contributed to the Marine Corps hymn from the shores of, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. The shores of Tripoli would be that North African beach where the Marines hammered the Barbary coast. By the way, that's also why they're called leathernecks. They wore leather collars to protect themselves from being beheaded by those suckers. So that is our lesson on war powers. Any questions, gentlemen, or comments? Let's go with you first, Dennis.
Well, no, I think what you said is fairly succinct. The president, the Army, the Air Force, all the military is ready to go 24 hours a day. They don't take weekends off. And the commander-in-chief, likewise, is able to react swiftly, immediately, as he feels is appropriate, per the definition that Alex gave, as far as a commander. And Congress, they can get involved in it later, depending upon what they feel they need to do. But
could you imagine if
a
a situation arose where a quick, decisive decision would need to be made and Congress is not in session, and the president's like, well, I got to wait for the next week or two till all these guys get here, so then they can debate on and vote on it. So hopefully, no, that's crazy. The president has to have that ability. Now, once again, there's a check in case he, abuses it. Alex, any questions or comments?
Yeah, we've got reports from commanding officers in Afghanistan that they would see a situation that required immediate response, and they would be forced to call Washington and talk to lawyers and find out if all the requirements, the requisites are fulfilled. By the time they got through, it's 8-10 hours later, and the target is gone. And
right, exactly. And that's why the commander-in-chief also gives certain powers to the commanders on the ground.
The first thing that Trump did when he became president, just about, was to free his commanders from that kind of insanity.
Right.
He told them, you guys make the decisions, you make the attacks, do it constitutionally, do it within your parameters, and tell me about it when you're done.
Right. That's a good commander-in-chief, and that is also a commander-in-chief who trusts his commanders under him.
And if
I think President Obama did not trust his commanders because, he would rather, be the Neville Chamberlain style, and those, military guys might act, I don't know, militarily, and he didn't want that.
These Democrats, they look at the military as the major criminals in the world, and therefore they are the enemy, and therefore they are not to be trusted, and they therefore will just put them out there and let them get killed.
Right. Well, remember, we are bullies. I know the Democrats love that word, bullies. You know, Trump is a bully. America's a bully because of his military. Well, guess what? There are bad guys in the world, and a firm hand is necessary. That's not being a bully. That's being a firm hand. You know how you deal with a bully? Because the bad guys are the bullies. You know how you deal with a bully? You pop the bully in the mouth, and the bully stops his garbage. But they don't know the difference between bad guys and good guys, and they think we're the bad guys. And yeah, it just drives me batty to no end. There was another question I was asked. I was going to bring up localism in a minute because somebody asked me a question in the Tuesday class. There was another question that got asked to me, and I didn't put it on our list. And I was thinking, well, I'll just answer it next week, but I really can't because I'm going to be, we're preempted by football next week, so we won't be here. In the 14th Amendment, there's a question regarding, well, let me back up. Yeah. Dennis, were you trying to chime in just a second ago?
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment. Just watching the ads on TV, you got Sabrina Cervantes running, and she's got her comments where they open with 3 or 4 military people, and then there's about a half a dozen saying that they appreciate her support because of what she's trying to do to give them, the benefits they need. And then there's Cisneros, his Navy career, and talking about how, he wants to put veterans first. Well, I think it's interesting that, to me, what the Democrats, the liberals, socialists are doing, and this, to me, goes along with the description you guys were talking about, having the commanders in the field being able to make decisions, that's best for them in the country, is the Democrats, I will give them credit that they do a great job of trying to support our veterans supposedly after the fact. If they get wounded, by George, we want them to be able to go to the VA. Now, the VA was terrible under Obama. I mean, it's improved, directly from your own experience. Firsthand. Yeah, I know that. So they talk a good game, but what they're willing to do for our military is they're willing to defund them, which is what Obama did for 8 years in a row. Okay, he just allowed. He never passed really a budget for them. The Navy's the smallest, the military's the smallest, it's the weakest. He's cut all these programs, so he's okay to let our guys lose the game. But after the game is over and they're dead or wounded, he wants to have a great medical team to help them after the game is over.
To show that and you know who's been doing that a long time and has stayed in office a long time is Dr. Raul Reese of the 36th district, which we're in that district. This radio show is the Pass area, and Raul Reese keeps winning because he says, "Well, I'm for the veterans. I support the veterans," but he doesn't support them in their job. National security, and his support for veterans is more what comes out of his mouth than his actual actions anyway. And so that's what keeps him in office, because it's actually a conservative district, but because there's a lot of veterans in the district, he gets the vote.
Well, but this is where the veterans are being stupid. They are cutting the tools they need to win the war to be military men. Right. And now that they're wounded or dead, half the airplanes can't fly in the country, because of spare parts and other, logistical problems. So he's damaging the veterans and their ability to survive and win, which is their primary job. But after they come home from the conflict, that they are insufficiently supported, to fight. He says, well, I want to make sure that you have good medical care and all of this. Well, you got to give the guys the tools they need to do their job, and then you need to support them, of course, if there's problems, health or, whatever the damage is, to their lives, supporting them after the fact for the service to their country. But they got the military, and then they try to, make up for it on the backside by saying, oh, I vote for benefits to the military, for their health, for the rest of their life. Well, guys don't join the military for the health benefits for the rest of their life. They join the military, to serve their country, and they need to be supported.
And if we don't have the right
that
tools to serve our country
mission.
because we're being, chopped off at the knees funding wise, and we're making, less in a paycheck in the military than, we're making a quarter of what your government union worker who's sitting in an office with feet kicked up, ordering that CPS go, get some kid, steal them from the parents. Those people make 4 times as much, and you start to wonder, well, wait a second, do you really support the military? Do you really support these guys?
Well, that's why, to me, the veterans that are doing these commercials, saying, well, they got me a better VA experience, or they got me this, or they got me that. They're really supporting, to me, someone who is close to traitorous, because a way to aid and abet our enemy is to weaken ourselves.
Right. And I didn't see a better VA experience. I've been in the VA system since '88, and I did not see a better VA system experience until Trump became president. And it's not because a bunch of conservatives are suddenly running the VA. It's because they all fear for their jobs suddenly. And so they're willing to operate the organization properly. Okay, now Alex has been trying to insert here, and we've been we got some strong voices here, so he needs to get his insert. So Alex,
I don't
mic
mind
is
waiting
yours.
my turn. There was a report on the TV today that storm hitting Florida was threatening some of our best aircraft, and so we had to get them out of the way. And it turns out that the F-22 Raptors, which are $150 million each, they couldn't fly. They didn't have the spare parts. They didn't have the repairs, so they got wiped out. Each one of those planes, $150 million.
Got wiped out by the hurricane.
Wiped out by the hurricane. There's an old expression in the military that the most expensive thing you can have is a second-rate Air Force. And I got a son that's 22 years old. He's trying to get into the Marines so he can fly F-18s. And yet I keep looking in the news, and here's an F-18 coming into landing, not combat or anything, and one of the engine fails. The thing flips over and wipes out both pilots. That doesn't gladden my heart when my kid is getting ready to join the Marines.
And in the Navy, we had an aging fleet, and what ships were left numbered because of the reduction in less than what we had in World War I in the number of vessels. Now, President Trump has been vowing to change that. Now, that said, I was Navy, and I'm looking at some of these new ships, and I mean, because of the stealth design and all that, they almost don't even look like ships anymore. But I have to admit, this president has vowed to strengthen our military back where it needs to be and stronger, and to get the money there. The budget increased military spending, not because we're a bunch of warmongers, but because we realize there's bad actors in the world, and you got to have a strong military. Going back to that thing we said about Trump earlier with his firm hand. And, and this is nothing new, because, George Washington said in order to achieve peace, one must be prepared for war. That was George Washington who said that. All right, we're going to go to break. Dennis, are you going to leave us but when we come back from break, or are you going to be able to stay with us a little longer?
I might stay with you a little longer. I'm just getting ready to take off. So,
all right, so we have a few more minutes after the break with you. So I want to bring something up with you before you run off. Alex, Dennis, and yours truly, Douglas V. Gibbs on Constitution Radio, KMET 1490 AM. We'll be right back.
A dent in your door, a scratch in your fender, or a scratch in your door and a dent in your fender. If you need auto detailing, if you need fire shooting decals on the side of your car, if you need a rally stripe right down the middle of your hardtop, I don't care what it is. The Patriots at AllStar Collision are the place you want to go. They're the only place to go. 522 Railroad Street in Corona. Web address allstarci.com to see all that they do and what they're all about. Phone number 951-279-9161. 1. All-Star Collision, the kings of rock and roll.
Help me fight the good fight. This radio program is funded by advertising dollars. So, if you are a business, add Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs to your business portfolio. If you are a listener, become a patron of the businesses advertising on this program. Without advertising, your weekend dose of truth ends. With more advertising, Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs grows, and we will be on the way to win the battle to restore the Republic. To learn more, email us at constitutionspeaker@yahoo.com or visit douglasvgibbs.com.
Listen to Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs, your weekend dose of truth on KMET AM 1490, Saturdays at 1 in the afternoon. The Banning Beaumont Cherry Valley Tea Party meets every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. for informal breakfast and discussion. And they meet each month on the second Thursday at 5 p.m., all at the Farms House Restaurant in Banning. Listen to interesting speakers, learn about our Constitution with our free classes, enjoy friendly discussions, and informal dining. Come join us. For more information, call Glenn Stoll, 951-316-3843.
Well, welcome back, Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs. So I teach Constitution classes to adults on Tuesday night in Corona and Wednesday night in Temecula. Wednesday afternoon, I teach homeschool kids, government, and we start with economics in January. And I've been teaching for a while, and in fact, I am running for school board in Murrieta Valley, trustee district number 2. And because, younger generation's important to me, the school system's important to me. I was actually on the PTA back in the 90s. I was the parliamentarian for my local PTA for the elementary school my kids were going to. And I have 3 grandkids that are in the school system now. But anyway, so I'm teaching the class. But before the class starts, one of the students asked me, Doug, where in the Constitution does it say that the federal government is not supposed to interfere with local issues? And I said, that's actually not the right question. He says, what do you mean? I said, well, the Constitution doesn't tell the government not to interfere with local issues. What it does is it doesn't tell them that they're allowed to. In other words, the way the Constitution is written is authorities are granted. And the authority to meddle in local issues is not granted to the federal government. Therefore, they can't. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out there for the audience. It's called localism, is that issue. And Dennis, you were there on Tuesday night at the class. So what is your thoughts about localism, what you've learned so far over the years? Because, you know, it seems like everybody wants the federal government to get involved. How often do you hear something locally happen and you hear and the first thing the media does, they stick a mic in someone's face and the person says, well, the government's got to do something.
Well, generally what is happening is if you would go back theoretically, which I know you could do, and go through the enumerated powers of the Constitution, and then therefore all the rest of the powers that are not given to the federal government remain with the state or remain, you know, with the people. Right. And then you can go from the state to the county and the county to the city and the city to the schools. And, you know, everybody's got their involvement, their stewardship, their area of responsibility. What is happening in great measure is the people with those responsibilities don't understand who is on first and who is on second. So they either don't do what they should do or they do what they should not do. And there's so much of that going on through, to me, either lack of understanding or through people that are willfully trying to manipulate the system and gain more power than what they have, you know, for their own career or for whatever reason, to where the frustrated citizen over the problems, because look what's going on in the state of California. I mean, I'm out of state right now. I'm talking to my son about some politics last night, telling him about some of the stuff going on. He says, well, Dad, that's not going on here. It's going on in the West Coast. It's not going on here.
Yeah,
you know, don't judge everybody by what California's doing. You know, so then people get frustrated, and where do they turn? They turn to somebody that can fix the problem, and that is Big Brother, and that's the federal government. So I think it's a call for help because of failure at lower level. But you need to fix the lower level. You're not going to
do our
fixed
own
at the higher.
job. I mean, we say, "Oh, hey, federal government, help us out because we screwed up." Why is California out of whack? We allowed it to be that way, and it's our job to get turned around. It's not the federal government's job to dictate the state what it can or can't do or what it should or shouldn't do, even though it's acting in a manner that is outside constitutional principles. That, because we're the ones that put those people in place. So it's our responsibility to either replace them or get them to do the job. Matter of fact, a few weeks ago, Alex and I and Diane Figgs, had this same conversation after Roy Bleckert from the Lou Desmond show argued with me about natural rights. And it comes down to, well, where does the authority lie and who's supposed to take care of the problem? And when it comes to localism, it's none of the federal government's business. And if our state's out of whack, we've got to fix it because we're the ones that allowed it to happen. And if we allow the federal government to come in here and straighten the state out, you just gave the federal government the authority to dictate to the state what it can or can't do. And it may have had the right impact now. But in the future, now that it's got that precedent, it may use that as tyranny against the state. And so you've got to be very careful what Pandora's box you open.
Yep. Well, I agree with that.
Alex,
and I'm going to have to...
Yeah, there's a strong motivation on the part of the politician and the bureaucrat to not be blamed for disaster. And I'm talking about... what was it, Katrina?
Yeah.
Where Bush did not send in FEMA to take care of all the problems that were coming up.
So it must be his fault.
He expected the local authorities, the state and the city of New Orleans, to fulfill their responsibilities and prepare the city for a huge storm. And
also FEMA, technically the federal government's not supposed to interfere with the state, so FEMA couldn't come in anyway until they issued a national emergency and basically said, okay, FEMA, please come in. They never issued that. So Bush actually acted according to the Constitution by not bringing FEMA in until a state of emergency was declared. But because they screwed up, they didn't want to, as you were saying a minute ago, they didn't want to admit to it, so it's all Bush's fault.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah, no good deed goes unpunished. Exactly. All right. Well, Dennis, any final words? I know you're getting down to the 0 hour there. He's, I know it's a not news item, but basically you're there for what, a grandchild? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I've got a grandson getting baptized here, and I just got out of the car in the church parking lot. We're going in now, so I will say goodbye. Going back to the last comment, though, to throw out a softball question to you or a situation, the federal government helping where they shouldn't help, and people thinking because of the initial decision that they think it's a good thing, but it's a precedent that can backfire on them. I guess that would open the door for you to talk about one of your favorite things, and that is the Chicago McDonald case.
Yeah.
Let that all hang up.
Yeah, you got it. McDonald v. Chicago. Thank you. Have a great one, Dennis. Thanks for calling in. McDonald v. Chicago. That was a court case. I don't know how many of you remember going back. Let's see, 2010, I think. It was 2010, McDonald v. Chicago. And what had happened is Chicago had banned handguns. And someone sued. The case went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said, well, you can't do that according to the Second Amendment. And my argument has always been, well, the Second Amendment doesn't apply to states, it applies to the federal government. And that goes back once again to Alex, Diane Figgs, and myself a few weeks ago. But, and if you want to check that out, visit our podcast page there. Just go to KMET1490am.com, find Constitution Radio, and then you find the podcast link from there. Or you go to politicalpistachio.com, find one of my Constitution Radio promo posts, and podcast page link will be there as well. But anyway, and so it goes up to the Supreme Court, and the conservative judges and the Democrat liberal left judges ruled in a manner you would expect. The conservative judges tried to protect the right to keep and bear arms, and the Democrats tried not to. But the Democrats were actually right in that ruling, just for the wrong reason. So when the court ruled that in McDonald v. Chicago, that Chicago could not ban handguns, according to the Second Amendment, I got phone calls, I got emails, I got, visits from people to, oh man, what a win for gun rights. And I said, don't be so sure. Think about what just happened. A federal court, the United States Supreme Court, just dictated to a city what it can or can't do regarding your gun rights. They may have come to the right conclusion this time, but we're opening up a precedent. We're opening up a doorway for tyranny. We don't want the federal government dictating to cities, counties, and states what they can or can't do. It's a dangerous proposition down the road. It may seem good right now because the court got it right. But if you open the door for the federal government to dictate to the states, who are supposed to be autonomous, sovereign states that are not dictated to by the federal government. Federal government was created by the states to serve the states and handle the external issues and disputes between the states and things that involve protecting, preserving, and promoting the union, such as post office, things like that. You don't want them dictating to the states. And now what they were using is something, and you can look this up, it's called the incorporation doctrine. And this comes from Bingham's due process clause and equal protection clause in the 14th Amendment. Congressman Bingham actually did want an incorporation of the Bill of Rights to the states. But the Congress rejected it. The state ratification conventions rejected it. So it did not become policy. Later on, starting with the slaughterhouse cases, and also, and you go even a little bit later, Judge John Marshall Harlan, Harlan, look him up. He was the first judge really to apply the incorporation doctrine, and it's been applied ever since because they want the Bill of Rights applied to the states. Why? Because they want the federal government to be able to dictate to the states what they can or can't do regarding your rights. And that's a dangerous proposition. And so I got to thank Dennis for bringing that up because it's an important point. I am going to bring something else up, and it's not on the list for today. We've got, I want to talk about a backlash from Kavanaugh. We can also bring up the pastor, Andrew Brunson, again, if we want during the second hour. And also, Double X is going to be calling in. He's got an executive order he wants to talk about and a few other things. Alan Myers will not be calling in today. He's unable to. We don't have any guests today. I had a couple guests lined up. Both of them were unable to fulfill their guest duties. We'll get them on in the future. I do want to remind everybody, Gosnell, the movie Gosnell, Gosnell, look it up. It is in the theaters. Go see it. One of the persons I wanted to get on today was one of the actors, either Dean Cain or Alfonso Rachel, on the program, but I was unable to get a hold of them quick enough, and it just didn't work out. But and maybe even the executive producer, John Sullivan, I know him, promoter, Jeremy Oliver. Maybe I can get them all on in a future episode in a couple of weeks after all the brouhaha about Gosnell settles down. It's ready for DVD. But I will say this. I want you guys to go out there and see it. Go to the theater and see Gosnell. Brave the rain. Go out there and see it because we want it to have a good showing at the theaters. We want the theaters to carry this film as long as possible. It's about the Philadelphia abortion doctor, the serial killer doctor out of Philadelphia who was performing partial birth abortions, who had women dying on the table because of his procedures, who was snipping the feet off of these poor unborn children after he killed them and putting those feet in jars as trophies. The sick son of a gun. This movie is about that, but it's not a gruesome movie. You can take a teenager. It's a gruesome subject, but they don't have gruesome scenes. So everybody, I want you to get out there after this show is over and find out where Gosnell is playing near you. Gosnell, it's about America's greatest serial killer. All right, we got about a minute before we go to break. Alex, so we got the show on the road here. We're not going to be on the air next weekend, so rest assured you won't have to. But any real quick comments before we go to the mid-show break? 30 seconds.
Yeah, I hesitate, though, because a couple of weeks ago we spent most of the show on the Second Amendment. I just want to say clearly one more time that the Bill of Rights is natural law.
Right.
We say that God gave us those 10 rights.
Amen. Well, he gave us all the rights that are enumerated there and the ones that aren't. Absolutely. And there's more than 10 there, but there's 10 amendments. I know what you mean. All right, let's go to break. When we come back, Double X, more about Alex and I talking Constitution. And I'm going to bring something up from the 14th Amendment about, well, should people who are not citizens be counted in the census for the number of representatives in the House of Representatives? Talk about that after the break, too.